All right. Good evening, my family and my friends. Welcome to the fourth installment. This is the fourth installment, right? Yes,
I believe so. Yeah.
it's the fourth installment. Okay. We got something
hmm
for y'all today. We have got something boiling for y'all today. My name is Sean, Brother Sean, to those, and my cousin over there, my sweet cousin, taking a sip of that Sprite to tame her
Yeah.
thirst.
I'm thirsty. I'm not thirsty, but I'm thirsty. I ain't thirsty,
Got got
but I'm thirsty.
hmm. Well, that's a subject for another episode of Chicken and Rice. But today we gonna talk about men. Today talk about toxic. Does it exist? We are going to talk about toxic masculinity. We've been having a lot of fun over the last 2-3 weeks with the dear white people and the unpopular opinions. That was actually very fun. But we're gonna come back. We're gonna have a little bit of a serious topic, but we're not gonna be too heavy-handed with y'all. But I think this in this day of time, we do need to talk about
Toxic
toxic,
masculinity.
toxic masculinity. We're going to talk about do we even believe that toxic
Well, first of
masculinity?
all, what is it? What is
Let me,
toxic
let me,
masculinity?
let me tell you what toxic masculinity is, ma'am. I am looking at toxic masculinity is actually on dictionary.com. Believe it or not, I'm going to read
Oh,
you the
wow.
definition of toxic masculinity. It says toxic masculinity is defined as a set of attitudes and ways of behaving stereotypically associated with or expected of men, regarded as having a negative impact on men on society as a whole. The
Hmm.
destructive messages associated with toxic masculinity can lead to men feeling entitled and engaged in violence against women.
Mm.
Uh, that's just one definition. But
Yeah.
when it's about the stereotypical ways, and as we look deeper, we're talking about some attitudes that can be portrayed by men.
Yeah. They had a few traits.
Yes, they did.
The traits of toxic masculinity include themes of mental and physical toughness,
Yeah.
aggression, not displaying emotion, discrimination against people who aren't heterosexual, self-sufficiency, and emotional insensitivity. Those are some of the traits to give people a broader, idea of what we're referring to. But yeah, so I guess your question is, do you even think it's a thing?
Is it? Is it
Is
a
it
thing?
even a thing? Is there such a thing, or is this something that this new generation, another term like cancel culture that they've come up with?
While I do believe that there are definitely some negative traits uh, that men are displaying that isn't conducive to having a healthy society. But no, I do not like this word toxic masculinity.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Masculinity, proper masculinity, is not toxic.
Right.
To those out there, I'm sorry to break it to you, but if it wasn't for masculinity, you and I wouldn't be here right now.
Yeah.
Okay, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, masculinity is just, I mean, masculinity is something that exists. So
Mm-hmm.
no, I am not about any kind of program whatsoever about tearing down any form of masculinity. We need
Mm-hmm.
masculinity. We need
Yeah.
masculine energy. We need feminine energy. That's how we keep having human beings.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to have this healthy relationship
Yeah.
between masculinity and the feminine nature. But I
Mm-hmm.
do tackle on some of these traits here that are involved in that you read off. Thank you for reading those traits of toxic masculinity. Like to
Mm-hmm.
tackle the first one of stoicism, not trying to show any emotion.
Yeah.
And I think that one is a tough one for men. It can be especially tough for Black men
Yeah.
uh, because as men, we're being attacked. The manhood is under attack.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. And when you're faced with a lot of opposition and oppression, you know, you have to
Mm-hmm.
deal with those things, but at the same time, you still have to provide.
Mm-hmm.
You can't tell your bank that, man, I can't make the mortgage this time because I'm so depressed. What I'm saying, or my
Mm-hmm.
feelings hurt. You
Yeah.
know, you know, you can't. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't give any credit. You know what I'm saying? They don't give any forbearances because you don't feel right.
Right.
You know, so
Mm-hmm.
how is it that how is it as men are we supposed to get into this age of feeling right, but at the same time, we can't tell our families that, hey, I wish I could provide for you, but I mean, I'm hurting right now. I mean,
Yeah.
what is there for a man to do? What does he turn to? So I think a lot of times what a man will do is he will just kind of regress into himself, which can be quite damaging. And this is very concerning because this can lead to not only violence towards, what I'm saying, towards the family and members and others, but also to himself. Men and drug addiction is going up. Men and suicide and alcoholism, all of that stuff is going up. But you don't just start doing drugs, you don't just start drinking, and you don't just, wake up and blow your brains out one day. All of that starts from somewhere, you know? And I just think that, when we have this impact or when we're put in this box where, you know, we got to deal with our problems, but at the same time, we can't stop to deal with our problems because if we deal with this here, then something else fails. I mean, do you kind of understand how that might be damaging to men?
I do. I think part of it is as it pertains to the Black community, because that's the only perspective I can speak from is, from a female, but also from being a Black person. But that's something that is synonymous with women too, just Black women in particular, just being raised in the Black household. We are taught to not emote, both men and women. The first thing when in our community, when a little boy is crying, first thing out of the parents or an adult's mouth in our community is stop all that crying. Same with women, but particularly with Black men, stop all that crying, quit crying, toughen up, And so I think that it's something that is aside from the oppression and all the stuff that from the outside world that Black men are facing. I think a lot of it also comes from just upbringing, just cultural upbringing, is that you guys, men, Black men in particular, y'all are taught to not show emotion, that showing a sign of emotion is, or showing emotion is a sign of weakness. And then it even dates back to the, back in the day with, I know sororities and fraternities, they don't like to talk about hazing, but the history of hazing, from what I've talked about with fraternity and sorority members, is that that's what hazing started for, it was to toughen you up, because they were like, well, if you can take us hazing you here from people that love and care about you, then when you get out into the outside world with all of the whites and the oppression and the dogs and the water hoses and all that stuff, then you'll be able to deal with it a lot better. You'll be better equipped to deal with it out there. And so I think it's just something that just from generation to generation to generation, it's just been kind of just ingrained in Black people, particularly, again, Black men, is to be stoic, to be this wall of non-emotion, and so I think that also kind of feeds into this quote unquote toxic masculine. And I don't even necessarily think that it's toxic. I think that it's just something that requires healing.
Okay, well, tell me this. We talked about young boys and stop that crying. Let's graduate a little bit into teenage and early adulthood and how these men behave in relationships, and how they may be incapable of showing emotion unless it's sexual emotion.
But I think that also starts with as a child. You're taught as a child that you're not supposed to show emotion, and that so you go through life afraid to show emotion. And so I mean, it's just kind of the inevitable that it's going to show up in your relationships as you become a teenager or a young adult or a young man, even an old man sometimes, and so it's like when you have been programmed to be this way and to be emotionless for pretty much your entire life, it's a hard thing to change. And then of course the pressures of society, and with police brutality and all the racism and stuff that goes on in the country, definitely doesn't help. But yeah, I mean, I definitely feel that it starts from childhood and shows up in adulthood.
So speak to this with a man being emotionally stable as it relates to being in a relationship with what I'm saying, and having him being a man that you trust to be provide and also be loving and emotionally available, because that tends to be that can tend to be a trapping situation for men. How do you gauge that? I mean, do you want I mean, obviously you're married. You know what I'm saying? There's some aspect that you don't have to deal with. Brandon's a good guy. Shout out to Brandon. Brandon's a great guy. But just speaking this relationship, in terms of relationship with just having a man and he's trying to be masculine, but he doesn't really want to be emotional with you. Or is there such a thing as a man showing too much emotion and you can't really trust him or depend on him?
It's just weird. It's I guess when it comes to relationships, especially with Black people, it's like it's a very fine line between not showing emotion, or saying he never shows an emotion, and he shows too much. Is a very, very, very fine line, because if you God forbid you get a man that's that's not afraid to cry.
What's too much? Is crying that line, like no crying?
For me, no. I think that, to me, that's a sign of strength. For a man to be, first of all, because it shows that you're comfortable enough with yourself, and your partner. To me, there's just nothing sexier than a man that, that is comfortable in his own skin and confident enough to be like, me showing emotion to my spouse, my wife, my girlfriend, whoever, it doesn't take away from my masculinity. I'm human, before you get anything, you're human. And so that that's sexy to me, to see that human side of a man. Now, no, women, we don't want nobody, crying, every
just go and spit it out. Tell us. Talk to
We
us.
don't want nobody crying on every 5 minutes. That shit. No, you know, we want a good, healthy amount. I don't want no dude that every day, you know, you fall into pieces. Now that ain't gonna get you no play in the bedroom, okay? Because I don't want you. I don't want nobody. We watching a movie or something, and you getting all teary, and that.
That's what I'm saying. He can't cry.
It's a no for me, dog.
Huh?
I said that's gonna be a no for me. I don't want no dude that we watching Titanic or something, and then I look over and he. Yeah. No, bruh. No.
Hey, you rough. He can't cry during that Titanic, but the band be playing while the ship was going down. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Lovers. They'll never see each other again.
You know, it's that. I say we laughing about it, but but I guess, you know, then it just goes on to personal preference. Yeah. You know, it's just about personal preference with some women, like, you know, that doesn't bother them, you know, but again, it's how you're raised. And I think so much pressure is put on men about whether or not they're comfortable enough to show emotion, but they, I guess, forget women are, you know, running that same race too, because I mean, that was a big deal with Brandon and I, was my inability at times to emote. You know, it was just, we had been well into our marriage before I was even comfortable enough to cry in front of him. You know, so, you know, but again, I think it's more of a cultural thing with Blacks, because with Black women, we got the same thing growing up. They didn't want us crying either. You know, stop all that crying. You know, and so quit all that crying, you know, that kind of stuff. And so, again, you're taught from an early age is that, you know, crying is a bad thing, you know, because it's like when I cry, I'm irritating the elders. You know, they don't like that, you know, and so you internalize that, and you get, like me, get to be older, and it's like, okay, well, I've got to cry in private because, you know, I don't want, crying makes people uncomfortable, you know, so, but yeah.
Yeah. What about masculinity as it relates to leadership? Thank you for your comments on that. What do you think about, you know, just, you know, a man shows up, y'all been working on things, and then a man shows up and he, you know, he declares himself, you know, he plants his flag and says, I'm the leader, you know, and things of that nature. There's some men with that kind of attitude, you know, with the toxic trait. I don't think that, you know, like I said, I hate that that's been a part of, you know, toxic masculinity, but just this whole idea of men have to do everything. They're always the leader. The buck stops with me. And I just think that, you know, that kind of rouses of an opportunity to really learn from our sisters. Black women are very.
I don't, you know, I'm old school, you know, and for me, again, I grew up with all guys, so I have a lot of masculine energy around me anyway. So, but I believe in the Bible, and I just believe that things have to go a certain way for them to, I think, you know, I believe God intended for things to go a certain way. Yeah. You know, like in the Bible, for example, it says a man takes on a wife, you know, but in this whole society of everybody wanting equality, you know, men and women wanting to be equal. I mean, reality is depending on what we're talking about, we're not equal, you know, strength wise, we're not, it's just the facts, you know, but the thing is, but God intended for the man to be the head of the household. God intended and wanted the man to be the leader. Right. And so you have you have women now that are comfortable with getting on one knee and proposing to their dude and asking the dude to marry. You know, I'm just like, shit. That's a whole other thing. I'm like, but what is, But then my question is, even when you do that, what is the man's reaction supposed to be? You know what I'm saying? But it's things like that that are emasculating. You know, and it's just like, so what is he supposed to? He's supposed to flutter around and be like, "Oh my God!" And cry. I mean, like, what is the reaction supposed to be? But the Bible doesn't say that a woman takes on a husband. It says a man takes on a wife. And so my thing is that when women do that, and this is just how I feel, is that when things don't go in a certain order, they get messed up.
Yeah. So what is your opinion, or what have you been able to gain from your friends that are seeking more of that equality, that kind of gender equality?
They still single?
Really? All of
them?
No, you lying. One of them cats have to be in a relationship.
It doesn't last because you want. But see, that's the thing. And see, that's the thing that bothers me about some of my friends, that they want equality, right? Yeah. They want to be equals, but when they get, you want equality, but you still want the man to do the thing. So you want to be able to have all these equal, I don't want you telling me what to do, and and we equal in this house and blah blah blah. But yet you want him to pay all the bills. It doesn't work both ways. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You know what I'm saying? So you can't have him paying all the bills and making all the money, but you don't want to have to cook and clean. You know what I'm saying? But you have to give for something. You can't have everything on his shoulders, but you don't have to do anything. That's not fair, and it's not gonna work.
I got you. I'm not. That's
you have to make up your mind. Do you want to be equals, or do you want the head of the household? Right. You want the man as a leader and the head of the house. So you have to decide. You can't have both. You can't have a leader and equality. It just doesn't work like that.
Got you. You speaking very boldly today, cuz.
Oh, I mean, but I've always felt like that. You know what I'm saying? I'm just, but and the whole submissive thing, the black, you say submissive to a black woman, that head be spin all the way around, like, say submit, obey, but people don't read the whole thing. It says both of them. You're supposed to submit to each other, not just, and not submit as in like I bow before you, but it means that you give yourself to your husband, you give yourself to your wife. You know what I'm saying? That's what it means in the biblical sense.
Well, and to just piggyback, I don't want to, what I'm saying, this isn't a sermon, but since you referenced that, submission is a choice. Yeah. Okay. You have to choose. You have to make that choice, and you can't make somebody submit. For submission is called slavery. Okay. So submission is a choice, and all of those principles about marriage, all of that stuff is in Ephesians 5, right? But you need to really understand, before you get to Ephesians 5, you really need to read Ephesians chapter 2, 3, and 4, because they talk about how you treat individuals just in general. Okay. It talks about having the fruit of the Spirit. Okay. Love and compassion against things that very law, against things that there are no law. And I just think that men need to be more loving, more compassionate, not just to women and not just to children, but to men as well. And chapter 4 talk more about just general treating people, how you treat people, and giving people, and being loving towards people, because that's how Christ is treating to us. And then you bring all those characteristics, marriage relationship. So, so when you have a situation where someone is manifesting the fruit of the Spirit, I'm saying, I'm pretty sure you don't have that's something that's easy to submit to. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Now, if you're being, rough, rugged, dishonest, what I'm saying, those are or violent.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're not submitting to anything. Yeah, you have to be worth submitting to. You know, like and following, and I'm because and I think that's the gripe. I think with a lot of Black women is having Black men that are leaders.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that situation when when you work in retail and somebody becomes the manager because they've been there for 10 years. And so they just gotten promoted because there was just nothing else to do but promote them up to manager. But just because you have been there for 10 years doesn't mean that you're management quality. Just because you take a management class doesn't mean that you're, management quality. And so just because you're a Black man or a man doesn't necessarily mean that you are meant to lead, and I think that I won't say that you're not meant to lead, but doesn't mean that you have leadership qualities or you're ready to be the head of a household. Let me put it that way. But I think I think a lot of Black men Black women too. I'm not getting on Black men, but a lot of us, but Black men, since we're talking about masculinity, it starts at home. It starts with how you've been raised. And then it's a lot of strength in understanding the parts of you that need to be healed, that are broken, the parts of you that you need to work on, and that's what I would like to see more of my brothers do, is that to recognize the parts of you that, aren't so strong. It's like, I know that I have an issue with expressing my emotions. So let me figure out what I can do to get this right before I go and take on a wife, before I go and get in another relationship, and create another broken adult. Let me get my shit together and, get my emotions, figure out why can I not express myself, emotionally. Let me figure out why I'm so freaking angry all the time. Those types of things. And I think that once we can get Black men to be able to deal with those things, it don't necessarily have to be talking to a counselor or whatever you feel you need to do or you're able to do in order to get those things right, then do that first, before you out here trying to take on a wife and, you messing up somebody else's situation.
Right. Let me bring this scenario towards you. Our time is actually, I'm getting away with this, but I think
it's a good one, man.
This is a good topic, and actually, quite honest with you, we do have a timer on. I'm just going to be honest with y'all today. I'm not really overly concerned about time on this particular episode because this is important.
Yeah.
We're not playing around. So if we go over, we just go over. Okay. Just pause it real quick. You know what I'm saying? And come back to it. You know what I'm saying? When you get a break again. But I think one of the way men learn, as boys learn, of course, is we look at other men.
Right.
And we look at how successful, they are.
Mm-hmm.
And as a young man, growing up and being interested in women, even as a young man, and we see this guy, he's got all the women or whatever, but, we're like, I want to be like that guy.
Right.
So trying to hang out with him, I'm trying to learn his skills and his mannerisms, what I'm saying? So I can repeat his success, even though that guy might not be someone that we should be emulating. But men are going to imitate what they visualize as successful.
Right.
Then on the other side, these women will say things like, well, you shouldn't be this way, you should be yourself and all that kind of stuff. But, well, you used to date that. You're dating that guy and he's trash.
Yeah.
So, speaking of that, Sister Sujuane, okay? Because I only know the man side of that.
Oh, I hear that all the time. That's one of the things that I get on my friends a lot about with the impossible standards.
Yeah.
I want a guy that's sensitive. I want a guy that, that's a leader, that's God fearing, and but then that guy comes along and you don't want that. You want the thug. I don't understand it either. I mean, I can't explain what I don't understand, but I don't get it. But I think that's sometimes women that's what they attract, because you're going to continuously attract what you refuse to heal. And you're going to continue to attract that until you heal that. So it's like you might want a guy that's God fearing and has all these great qualities, but until you get yourself together, my sisters, out there, until you get yourselves together, you're not going to be able to attract a guy like that, because there's something in you that you probably need to work on and you need to fix, until you can do that. And so I think that's what it is. I think they might want that guy, but I don't think those guys necessarily want them.
Do you think that, saying women being attracted to the quote unquote, and I do use quote unquote bad guy, it can that be to gain a sense of protection?
There is. I have a friend of mine that was like that.
Protection.
Yeah, because it stems from all this stuff goes back to childhood. All this stuff. People don't realize how impressionable, like you were saying, young men are. Like you said, y'all learn how to be men by watching other men, whether it's your father, your grandfather, brother, whoever, but kids are so impressionable, and so that was something. Like I have a friend of mine, and that's her thing. She dating the thugs. Yeah, she's dating the thugs. But the reason she was so attracted to thugs was because her dad was more of a beta than an alpha. Okay. He wasn't, so she didn't feel that sense of security from him, and so she gets this false sense of security by dating the thugs, because the thugs, they're tough and rough, and so that's what she was lacking. She didn't feel that security or that sense of protection from her dad. So it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna go date a thug because I know they protection. They got guns, they got this, they fight, they do this, so it's that false sense of protection. And so that, like I said, a lot of that happens. It stems back to that relationship. As far as the all this, the way it all ties in together, just from the masculinity that's displayed from her father, or the lack thereof.
Right. Well, I got it. So is this never ending? Is this well, I shouldn't say it's a never ending struggle, but it's just, it's hard to deal with. How do we get men to be less beta and more alpha without being more violent?
First of all, get yourself together before you have kids. That's the first and foremost.
Okay.
Get yourself together before you have children. That was my thing. Sometimes I feel like I'm being punished because I've chose to wait to have kids later in life. We haven't had them yet, but but my thing is I just refused to bring a child into this world, first of all, before I was ready. Wasn't nobody gonna pressure me into having a child before I was ready. But not only that, it's like I just knew I had emotional work that I needed to do, because it's like I couldn't imagine having been a mom back then, just when I was younger, because I had a lot of pain and hurt and stuff that I needed to get to work through, with the counselor or therapist or whatever. I had a lot of stuff emotional baggage that I needed to work through, and if you don't work through that, you put that crap on your children. And then we end up raising and rearing another broken adult, male or female. And so that's that. I think it starts there. Before you are ready. I mean, nobody's really ready for motherhood or fatherhood, but make sure that you got your emotional affairs in order. I'm not saying you got to be 100% perfect, but if there's some things that are bothering you or you need to work on, or some childhood traumas that you haven't yet addressed, get yourself into some counseling, or get that in check, because you don't want to pass that pathology on to your child. So I think it starts there.
Gotcha. Did you happen to read that article that we talked about the other day?
I did not. I did
Okay.
not read that one.
Okay. Well, we're not going to talk about that there. Here, I'm not going to point from that. Real fast, there's one other point that we wanted to talk about on those negative traits. One of the negative traits that I also wanted to speak about was, heterosexual men being too harsh and not showing, not showing any compassion towards homosexual men, being violent and hateful towards them. I just think that one of the invisible, unspoken, how should I say this? One of the unspoken, rules of manhood is to reject all forms of femininity. And of course, any man that is effeminate or is homophobic, or those that identify as female, that they are female inside. You guys talked about that on another podcast. I would suggest Sujuane can tell you about that podcast. Her guest explained that quite wonderfully. So I don't want to mess that up. But I just do think that there is a definitely, it's almost like, you're not a real man unless you attack, what I'm saying?
Yeah.
A homosexual, brother, whether it be physically or hurtling these dangerous words to him. And we need to understand that even though that they are living a certain way, that's still my brother. Okay, that is still my brother. So I gotta lift him up regardless of the choice that he's making, because just like someone can be attacking him, someone can attack me as well.
Yeah.
And no one doesn't, it would be nice if we can make it out of this world without some level of attack, but that just doesn't seem to happen, But I just wanted to know, did you have any other comments on that?
On the, I think when you're talking about, a straight Black man is berating or insulting or whatever with a gay man, I don't think that that's toxic masculinity. I think that's just a toxic person. Gotcha. I think that's a broken person. I don't think it has anything to do with masculinity. I just think that, and I think a lot of these things they're calling toxic masculinity just have to do with the individual. Right. That's just that person. It's just toxic. Yeah. The behavior is very, well, not maybe the person, but the behavior is very toxic. It has nothing to do with masculinity, because you can have those same characteristics in females. Anybody can have those characteristics.
But a man, therefore, is tied to masculinity. Therefore, we got this new word, toxic masculinity. You see what I'm saying? That's how these things develop.
Yeah. I just think it's ridiculous. I don't think that I think that's, like you said, the behavior is toxic, because we could apply the same thing to females. We could have toxic femininity, so it's just like, like where does it stop? Where does it stop? It gets ridiculous, but yeah, I don't, I want my man, or, to be a man. I don't want him to, I don't want him crying and and all that. I do. I mean, I don't mind, if you're something sad or emotional or whatever. But no, I want, But again, that's how I was raised. I was just not raised around dudes crying all the dang time. That's just not what I was raised around. So if I'm around a dude that's crying all the time, I don't know what to, that's uncomfortable. That would be uncomfortable for me. Like, what am I supposed to say? Well, I mean, what would you do, Brother Sean? When your homeboys came over to your house and just crying and crying and crying, or every time you saw one of your homeboys, he was crying.
Well,
I mean, would you console and hug that brother? I won't say hold, but
Well, I mean, well, I mean, whatever the brother needs at that particular time. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you know what I'm saying? He might need to have, a hug from a brother. You know what I'm saying? Real, that masculine, no kind of, funny stuff.
And it wouldn't change your opinion of him one way or the other. And I think that's the other thing too with men. I think there's a fear that if I show especially emotion in the presence of another man, then now all of a sudden this man is going to think less of me, or no longer I'm going to lose respect because I cried in front of another guy. So that might be something good to hear,
Look, man, you safe with me. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, I can't speak for any other black man in America. Okay. Yeah. But you're safe with me because, I might need to bear my emotions to you. And if you're not going to share, feel comfortable sharing with me, then I'm not going to feel comfortable sharing with you. How do we become stronger? How do we promote a more positive masculinity? Okay. Yeah. Somebody gonna have to be ready to hold a man. Some man out there is gonna have to be ready to hold a brother. Okay. And help them get back up. Somebody gonna have to do it. Okay. It can't be a female all the time.
Yeah, because I mean, with some things, we're just not going to understand. I'm not going to understand. I know what it feels like to be a black woman or black person, right, but I can't explain. I can't relate to what it feels like to be a black man because I'm not a man. I'm not a black man. Right. So the only other person that's going to be able to relate to that is going to be another black man.
Right.
And if we want to get the healing done, we need to have these uncomfortable conversations, and black men need to get more comfortable with being able to be vulnerable with each other. It has nothing to do with your masculinity or your sexual preference. It's called healing. It's called being an adult. And I'm telling you, from women, man, there's nothing sexier to a woman than a man that has his shit together. And I'm not talking about financially. I'm talking about emotionally.
Yeah.
There's nothing sexier than a man that is comfortable with himself. That ain't afraid to be emotional. That's nothing, like you see these men all the time. Like you see like on Instagram and stuff, like when they get married they see their wife coming down, their bride or whatever coming down the aisle, and they get emotional. And that crap is sexy as hell to a lot of women.
Really?
Yeah.
I cried when I saw my wife walking down.
That shit is but it's like you're not, because it's like he is comfortable enough in his own skin to where he's able to be vulnerable. Vulnerability is very, very, very sexy. Gotcha. Especially with men.
Brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Being vulnerable with your woman is, that's a turn on.
There you go.
You might get some. So be vulnerable.
You heard it from a woman, brothers. That heard from a woman. All right.
But but this is a good one, man. This is a really good episode. We might have to do a part 2 and bring a brother up. another special guest
We
from
gonna
another male perspective.
we're gonna have to do that. But this was a great starting point. We are gonna go ahead and shut it down this evening. We covered a lot of ground this evening. I really do thank you from your points that you brought up and the research that you did, cuz you did an excellent.
You did too, cuz.
That is awesome.
Oh yeah, and one more thing. By the time this airs, Brother Sean here will have turned a year older. So we want to wish Brother Sean a happy birthday. By the time y'all see it, his birthday will be past. But yeah, but show him some birthday love in the comments. Just.
Yep. Yeah. Sure does feel good to be turning 25.
Okay, well, on that note, we're going to get off of here for lightning strikes, Brother Sean, and his 20, phone.
25 plus. By the time y'all see this, I'll be 42. Yeah. And that's not lying. I'll be 42 years old.
Yeah. And one last thing, we had another death in the Mackey family. A couple weeks ago, we lost Aunt Gladys, which is our grandfather's sister. And sadly, Monday of this week, we lost my uncle, which is my mom's brother. So yeah, we've been taking a bit of a hit in the Mackey family, but I just wanted to
tell the family your uncle's name, please.
Henry Arthur Mackey Jr. So I called him Uncle Jr. So rest in power, Unc. He is he's at peace and he's no longer in pain. So thank God for that. So yeah.
Gotcha. We have had in just 2020. This is 2021, right? We've actually had 3 significant losses in the It started off with your grandfather, Henry Sr., which actually started our relationship.
Right.
And then a couple of weeks ago, we did lose Aunt Gladys. Aunt Gladys was very fun to be around. Only got to talk to her once, but to know her was to love her. And then, like Sujuane said just this week, as me and you were talking yesterday, called and gave you the news, and then I had a feeling what she was telling you when she was saying. So keep us in prayer. These losses come right before, of course, next week is
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving and then
the holidays. Yeah. Right before the holidays. So yeah, it'll be a rough holiday. So we'll get through it.
We will get through it. And just to note, y'all, just keep in contact with your family members and show them love.
Especially during the holidays, man.
Yeah.
Because the holidays are not always a joyous time for everybody.
Right.
They're not happy for everybody. So, reach out to somebody you haven't reached out to in a while.
Yeah. And the be. Let's be family.
Absolutely.
Right? Let us be family. Guys, I mean, we're on Facebook, we're on social media. Okay.
Oh yeah. The links are all in the bio. Just hit the link, follow us. Y'all know what to do. We ain't gotta say it. Y'all know what to do. Make sure you following us and everything. And we'll be back for a little mini episode next week for Thanksgiving. So
all right, guys. Peace out. We love you. Hit that like.
Peace.